breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got a tremendous podcast for you as we're going to be joined in segment number 2 by Matt Williams. He does great work over at the GameDay MLB, and he does an amazing job taking a look at so many things, as I know that he's been playing a lot of first five, he's been playing a lot of player props, and I know that he likes some unders for Sunday, so we're going to be taking a look at what goes into his equation that when he lays off of a total, when he decides to go under like he's going to be doing for quite a few games on Sunday, and just how he's been utilizing bullpen data to be able to find some winners on the MLB board for this early season. It's going to be a great chat with him, and it's not the Matt Williams that used to play for the San Francisco Giants, by the way. This is a man that instead is a star over there at the GameDay MLB. I knew that someone was probably going to be thinking that, so we're going to make that known right about now. But Matt Williams, very good name in baseball, and there are many Matt Williams doing great work, and the one that is joining me in segment number 2 certainly is. And in the final segment, going to give you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this MLB Sunday as we touch them all. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of two ways we'll fire those in. First one is my Twitter timeline at JNet_D1. Keep in mind, letters EM. Name does not matter. As per usual, please do send these into the timeline. The other way is via an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Did not get in any Twitter questions today, but we had a fun day of baseball Friday night because I've got a little bit of cleanup on those games into Saturday. So let's take a look back at those, try to find some trends, and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
The New York Mets on Friday put up a 17 spot on the Oakland A's. 17-6 of final as the Oakland A's had 17 walks in this game. That ties, I believe, a modern-day record for walks in a 9-inning game. This was just absolutely terrible as James Kaprielian, he gave up 6 runs in 3 2/3 innings with his 7 walks. You had 6 runs given up in a third of an inning by Hogan Harris. More like Hogan's Heroes was needed in this one. Jersey Familia, Spanish for blown save. He gives up 4 runs on 4 walks, 1 1/3 innings. You did have 1 run surrendered in 2 2/3 innings by Chad Smith. He did an okay job. Sam Ball got you an out of the bullpen, and then you had 2/3 of an inning from backup catcher Carlos Perez. As for the A's, they lose by 11 runs despite the fact that Shea Langolaris goes deep off of Kodai Senga for his 3rd home run season. You had Elemendy Diaz get his 1st home run season off of Senga, and then you had Brent Rooker get home run number 4 of the season off of Steven Nagosic. Nagosic gives up 1 run in an inning. Senga, not necessarily the world's greatest start, giving up 4 runs in 4 2/3 innings, and then Dennis Santana, 2 1/3 innings, giving up a run before John Curtis is able to close things out. But nice, easy winner there. On Saturday, it was a little bit more hairy, but the Mets still got the job done by a count of 3-2 as for the Mets, it was a pair of home runs with Mark Canha going deep off of Shintaro Fujinami for his 2nd home run season, and Fujinami allowed one to Pete Alonso, his 7th of the campaign, as it wasn't as bad of a start for Mr. Fujinami as he gives up 3 runs in 6 innings, giving up a pair of homers. He had given up 13 runs in his first 2 starts, so remarkably better there. And then the bullpen, Danny Jimenez, Zach Jackson, Trevor May, they were all able to supply a scoreless inning. And for the A's, 1 of 12 with men in scoring position as Carlos Carrasco. He gives up 2 runs over the course of 5 innings. Bullpen from there did their work. Brooks Raley, Drew Smith, they combined for 2 scoreless innings. Adam Ottavino, David Robertson, they combined for 2 scoreless innings themselves, going 1 scoreless apiece. You did see the Chicago Cubs absolutely take it to the LA Dodgers on Friday by a count of 8-2 as for the Cubs, they had 5 home runs in this one with Yan Gomes going deep twice. 4 home runs, number 2 and 3 of the campaign. Patrick Wisdom, home run number 4 of the season. Ian Happ, number 2 of the season. And T.I. Suzuki, fresh off the injured list, he gets his 1st home run of the campaign as Noah Thor Syndergaard, he gave up one of those. It wasn't a great performance, giving up 3 runs in 6 innings, but wasn't terrible. He got 9 strikeouts. From there, it was Andre 3000 Jackson that gave up 4 of those home runs in the final 2 innings, giving up 5 runs in 2 innings with Bruce Rodriguez giving you a scoreless inning as Max Muncy got his 6th home run season off of Justin Steele, and the man of Steele did go one up to Chris Taylor, his 3rd of the season, but for Steele, very good start. 2 runs surrendered over the course of 7 innings, both were solo home runs with Brad Boxberger. Michael Rucker being able to supply a scoreless inning. You did see the Texas Rangers on Friday be able to get it done against the Houston Astros 6-2 with Martin Perez looking solid. Gave up 2 runs over the course of 5 innings. Now, did allow a pair of solo runs. Martin Maldonado, his first of the season, and Yordan Alvarez, his fourth. But Dane Dunning and Will Smith, they get jiggy with it, combined for 3 scoreless innings as Jose Leclerc, a scoreless inning, and Adolis Garcia got his third of the campaign in terms of home runs, going deep off of Luis Garcia, is really struggling to begin the season, giving up 5 runs over the course of 5 innings. From there, you did have scoreless innings out of Phil Maton, Ryan Stanek, Seth Martinez. Now, more for the Saturday games. You did see the Yankees get it done against the Minnesota Twins. This one by a count of 6-1, as for Minnesota, they just weren't able to get much off of Domingo Germán, who strikes out 11, giving up 1 run in 6 1/3 innings before Michael King was the king. 2 2/3 innings, not allowing anything whatsoever, as Kyle Higashioka and Anthony Rizzo provide the power in this one, both getting home runs off of Tyler Mahle. For Rizzo, his 4th of the campaign, Higashioka, his 2nd as Mahle. Gives up those 2 home runs, 4 runs, 2 of which were earned in 4 1/3 innings, and been seeing quite a few unearned runs in recent days. This one due to Tyler Mahle's own fielding error, so that was not great, as Giovanni Morin, 1 2/3 innings scoreless, and Oriel Alcala, the DK Nation write-up pick of the under in the Guardians versus Nationals, fortunately unable to get through. Now 9-6-1 for the season, as the Guardians get it done 6-4, and this very nearly holds under if it wasn't for a Josh Bell double in the 9th inning and 2 unearned runs in the first, as Zach Plesac, he gives up 4 runs, 2 of which were earned over the course of 5 innings. Wasn't too bad. It was really Chad Kuhl that lit this game on fire, giving up 5 runs in 4 2/3 innings, including a home run to Jose Ramirez, his first home run of the campaign. Both bullpens relatively solid in this one. James Karinchak, Emmanuel Clase, both are able to deliver a scoreless inning, as Daniel De Los Santos and Eli Morgan combined for 2 scoreless, and he had Thaddeus Ward give up 1 run in 1 2/3 innings for Washington, but Erasmo Ramirez came in all down the fort, 2 1/3 innings scoreless, and Anthony Banda was able to give you an out of the bullpen as well. This was a game where the under had no chance. The Boston Red Sox, they completely take it to the LA Angels by a count of 9-7, as the Angels got up 4-0 before the Red Sox could even get up to the plate, and well, they made like your buddy at the bar and could not close, as Ryan Tepera gives up 3 runs, only 1 of which was earned. He was hurt by a pair of errors in the field, as Matt Theus did not have a good night behind the dish. He committed a pair of errors, and Tyler Anderson did not have a good night either, giving up 6 runs in 4 innings, including a pair of homers. Rafael Devers, 7th home run of the season. Yu Chang, his first home run of the campaign. From there, Matt Moore was able to give you 2 scoreless innings. Carlos Aceves, a scoreless inning, and you did have Tucker Davidson hit you up with an out of the bullpen. And for Boston, it was Nick Pivetta who got completely lit up, giving up a home run, 6 runs in total over the course of 4 innings, as Chizuru Urshela was able to get his first home run of the season. From there, a Red Sox bullpen that isn't very good actually did their job. John Schreiber, Richard Blyer, Kenley Jansen, Caleb Ort all supply a scoreless inning, and then you did have, for Mr. Richard Blyer, 1 run surrendered over the course of an inning. The Miami Marlins were able to get it done in a low-scoring affair, 3-2 against the Arizona Diamondbacks, as Ryan Nelson, for the Sakes, had another really nice start, giving up a solo home run over the course of 6 innings, as Garrett Hampson gets his first home run as a Miami Marlin. But Scott McGough, he blows it out there in the bullpen, giving up 2 runs in a third of an inning before Andrew Chafin gives you a pair of outs out of the bullpen, and Miguel Castro a scoreless inning. And for the Miami Marlins, you had Braxton Garrett deliver a relatively nice start. He goes 5 2/3 innings, giving up just 1 run. Matt Barnes gives you a pair of outs out of the bullpen, did allow a run along the way, and then you did have a scoreless inning out of Uskar Brazobin and Tanner Scott, with getting a pair of outs out of Andrew Nardi to be able to stem the tide. For the Philadelphia Phillies, it's now a 5-10 start to the season, and just has been one thing after another for them, as they have been all sorts of banged up, and they lose 13-0 against the Cincinnati Reds. As for the Phillies, they leave 9 men on base. They go 0-6 with men in scoring position, and it's just a piecemeal job in this one, as Matt Stram only able to make it 2 2/3 innings, giving up 3 runs, including a homer going deep. Will Myers twice, his first and second of the campaign, he would go deep off of Andrew Bellotti, who surrendered 2 runs in 1 1/3 innings, including that home run. Matt Moore did not give you more, giving up 3 runs in an inning. Gregory Soto, scoreless inning before Josh Harrison gives up 5 runs in an inning to just eat up that final bottom of the 8th inning, while Graham Ashcraft, he was anything but a load of Ashcraft. 6 scoreless innings. Buck Farmer, a scoreless inning, and got 2 scoreless out of Casey Legumina. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly, but he was able to come in and he was able to hold it down for the Cincinnati Reds. Currently the top under team in all of baseball is the St. Louis Cardinals. This total actually ended up as a push, but for the Pittsburgh Pirates, they get a big home run late from Andrew McCutchen to get an extra innings 6-3 W. As for Mr. McCutchen, he goes deep in the 10th inning off of Jordan Hicks for his second home run of the campaign. Earlier in the game, Cabrian Hayes, he got a leadoff home run to start off the game off of Steven Matz. His first as Matz, not a bad start here, giving up 2 runs over the course of 5 2/3 innings. Chris Stratton, he was able to go 2 innings, giving up a run before Ryan Helsley gives you 4 outs out of the bullpen, but Hicks, he gives up 3 runs, 2 of which were earned in that 10th inning before Genesis Cabrera has to close it out. And for the Cardinals, they went just 2 of 13 with men in scoring position as Rodonsi Contreras was able to lend 6 innings, was facing a lot of danger but got out of it while giving up just 2 runs. Rob Zanoski, he was able to come in for a third of an inning, gave up a run, but from there, Colin Holderman, David Benner, Dory Moretta all lend a scoreless inning, and Robert Stevenson was able to give you a pair of outs out of the bullpen to be able to get this one into the window. For the Milwaukee Brewers, not a day that they would like to remember. They lose to the San Diego Padres by a count of 10-3. As for the Brewers, you had a not-so-savory start out of Freddie Peralta, giving up 5 runs in 5 innings, and the Brewers entered in the day with the top bullpen ERA in the big leagues. Hobie Milner, he put a dent into that as he gives up 3 runs over the course of an inning. As for the Padres, they got a pair of home runs out of Jake Cronenworth. He went deep off of Peralta for his second home run season, and then off of Milner for his third. For the Brewers, he had Javi Guerra give up a run in a third of an inning. Gus Varlin gives up an unearned run in his 2/3 of an inning, and Joel Payamps a scoreless inning. Meanwhile, for the San Diego Padres, Seth Lugo, not long for this game, giving up 3 runs in 3 2/3 innings, but their bullpen, you had a Brent Honeywell, Tim Hill, Domingo Tapia, Luis Garcia all lend a scoreless inning, and Steven Wilson, 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. The San Francisco Giants are the latest team to blow a 3+ run lead in the 7th inning or later. As for the Giants, they entered into the bottom of the 8th inning up by a count of 6-3, and they lose 7-6 in 11 innings. For the Giants, they go 1 of 13 with men in scoring position. They were able to get a pair of home runs. J.D. Davis, his 4th of the season, and Blake Subble was able to get his 2nd of the campaign. As both of those home runs, they come off of Michael Lorenzen, who got just shelled for the Detroit Tigers, giving up 6 runs in 4 innings, including those 2 jacks. From there, you get 3 scoreless innings out of Tyler Holton, and then scoreless innings out of Jason Shreve, Jason Foley, Alex Lang, and Trey Wingenter. Meanwhile, Gary Carpenter, he got home run number 2 of the season off of Anthony DeSclafani, who went to a relatively solid start for the Giants. He gives up 3 runs, only 2 of which were earned, as he was hurt by a pair of errors by Brandon Crawford out in the field. But John Brebbia gives up 3 runs in a third of an inning in that 8th inning. Sean Helgelate was able to give you a scoreless inning, and then you got 2 scoreless innings out of Tyler Rogers before his brother Taylor gives up the unearned run in the 11th inning that cost the San Francisco Giants the game. For the Chicago White Sox, they entered into Saturday with the worst bullpen ERA in the big leagues, but the bullpen was able to do just enough to get them to the window. 7-6. They take down the Baltimore Orioles in 10 innings as Michael Kopech, he gives up 3 runs over the course of 5 innings, including a pair of homers. Going deep for Baltimore, Orde Mateo, his third home run of the season, and Anthony Santander was dealing with a little bit of a back issue. He gets his first, and then from there, Keenan Middleton gives up a run in a third of an inning. Kendall Graveman, he gives up a run in an inning as well, but he gets scoreless innings. Reynaldo Lopez and Tanner Banks, he get 2/3 of an inning scoreless out of Aaron Bummer, and then Jimmy Lambert gives up the unearned run in the 10th inning, while the White Sox, they rally for 2 in the 10th inning as they're able to get to Logan Gillespie, who did not record a single out in that 10th inning, giving up 2 runs, 1 of which was earned, as Kyle Gibson did not put the bullpen in a great spot, giving up 4 runs in 5 1/3 innings, including a home run to Jake Berger, back-to-back days for a home run for him, 3rd of the campaign. From there, the rest of the guys were doing a relatively solid job. Junior Cano, Brian Baker were both able to lend a scoreless inning. Danny Columbi gives up a run in his inning of work, and Cianel Perez, pair of outs out of the bullpen scoreless. You'd have the Toronto Blue Jays take it to the Rays once again. Rays are now 13-2 as it was 5-2. The Blue Jays are able to get it done. You had the wholesale approach for the Tampa Bay Rays. Kelvin Fletcher, 2 2/3 innings, giving up 1 run. Bulk guy in Josh Fleming gives up 2 runs in 3 1/3 innings, and then you'd have 2 innings giving up 2 runs by Trevor Kelly. But for the Rays, the biggest part for this game was just not being able to hit with men in scoring position. 1 of 10 with men in scoring position. Taylor Walls does get his first home run of the season. That comes off of Yusei Kikuchi, but Kikuchi's looking a bit more solid this year. Gives up just that solo home run over the course of 6 innings, strikes out 9. From there, Eric Swanson, Jordan Romano, both lend a scoreless inning. Adam Simber does give up a run along the way, but the Blue Jays, they were able to get the job done in that one. The Atlanta Braves, they were able to take it to the Kansas City Royals, being able to get a very comfortable win in which this game goes over, doing this in the top of the ninth with the game currently 9-3. But Bryce Elder, another relatively solid start, giving up 3 runs over the course of 5 1/3 innings, biggest hiccup that he's had all season long, but now $1.53 ERA through 3 starts out of him. Dylan Lee, Nick Anderson both lent a scoreless inning, and for the Atlanta Braves, how about Sean Murphy having himself a day? He was able to get a 3-run shot off of Chris with the K. Bubich, his 3rd home run of the campaign. For the Royals, Bubich, that was a Bubich trap for them, giving up 5 runs in 5 innings, including that bomb. Ryan Yarbrough, 2 1/3 innings, allowing 4 runs before Carlos Hernandez gives you a pair of outs out of the bullpen, and then Scott Barlow was able to clean up that 9th inning. And then we saw a West Coast rarity on Saturday, a 1-run win from the LA Dodgers. They get it by a count of 2-1 against the Chicago Cubs as both runs come in the 9th inning. Jameson Taillon, very solid for the Cubs, going 5 scoreless innings, punching out 7. Mark Leiter Jr. scoreless inning. Keegan Thompson, 2 scoreless as well. But Michael Fulmer gives up those 2 runs as the Cubs really didn't help him out too much. 0 of 8 with men in scoring position. Patrick Wisdom, lone run of the game for the Cubs. His 5th home run of the campaign. That comes off of Michael Grove, who gave a really good start here for the LA Dodgers. 1 run surrendered in 5 2/3 innings. From there, Alex Vesia, Shelby Miller, both give you a scoreless inning with Yancy Almonte, Caleb Ferguson, both being able to go 2/3 of an inning scoreless, but it was Mr. David Peralta who was able to come up with the RBI hit for the Dodgers. For the Dodgers, 119 regular season wins since the beginning of the 2022 campaign, just their 17th win by 1 run. The Seattle Mariners, they completely took it to the Colorado Rockies. 9-2 the final in this one, as for Seattle, George Kirby was able to give a good start, giving up 2 runs in 6 1/3 innings before Diego Castillo, scoreless inning, and Ben Murphy, 4 punch-outs while getting 5 outs, and it was Mr. Eugenio Suarez that was able to provide some fireworks. 2nd home run of the campaign comes off of Ryan Feltner, another rough start for Mr. Feltner, giving up 5 runs in 3 2/3 innings. Brent Suter, 4 unearned runs, as there was a pretty bad error by Ezekiel Tovar at the shortstop spot. That really costed him. Connor Siebold, 1 1/3 inning scoreless, and Pierce Johnson, scoreless inning. But another rough go of it for the Colorado Rockies. And then the Houston Astros, they were able to get back on track. They take down the Walker Texas Rangers by a count of 8-2, as John Gray, not long for this game. He was lifted due to injury, giving up 1 run in 2 innings. From there, Cole Reagans, he has to go 4 innings of long relief. Didn't do terrible. He gave up 2 runs. Things really went downward with Ian Kennedy, though, giving up 5 runs, 4 of which were earned in a 1/3 of an inning before Josh Shorbridge was having to come in for 1 2/3 innings, going scoreless there. And for Houston, Hunter Brown, young guy, he's got a lot of potential. He was hurt by his own fielding error, but 2 unearned runs given up in 7 innings before Brian Abreu, Rafael Montero. They're both able to deliver a scoreless inning. And if you're looking at Major League Baseball right now, overs have been hot thus far this season. Overall, overs are hitting at 55.5%, 117 overs to 94 unders, and along the way we have gotten, I believe now, 10 total pushes with regards to totals. And what has been a theme this year as well has been favorites not able to cover the run line. Favorites, they are doing really well straight up, 138-82, but we've now seen 31 games where the favorite has won outright, but they have won by just 1 run to be unable to cover the run line. And just over the last 7 days as a whole, favorites, they have had 19 of them win straight up, because favorites are actually in this span of the last 7 days 63-32, but just 44 have covered the run line. So 19 1-run wins for favorites, and in the span of the last 7 days, things have been a little bit more equal in terms of totals, but still a little bit shaded to the over. 49 overs to 41 unders along the way. We've gotten a few pushes as well. So that's what we're seeing in Major League Baseball right now, and that's what we all got on Saturday. Now, let's take a look at some of Sunday's games and take a look how Matt Williams has been utilizing handicapping bullpens to his advantage. He does great work over at the GameDay MLB, and he joins me next right here on the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VSiN Family Podcast.
Are you ready to become a winning sports bettor? Schedule a call with SBIA to find out how their service can make you a long-term winning player. They've developed an innovative algorithm that maximizes units returned, and they are so confident in their system that they offer a money-back guarantee. Sign up by October 31st and get their MBA package at no cost until they reach 10 net units. They treat sports betting like a business. So if you want to learn how to make your sports betting dreams a reality, visit them at SBIA1.com and check them out on social media at SBIA Sports.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball, this is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. It is great to be joined by our guests as we've got Matt Williams. No, not the man that was a star for the San Francisco Giants and the Arizona Diamondbacks for many years, but a man that is a star over at the GameDay.com as he does an incredible job taking a look at the MLB. He is their lead MLB editor, doing a good job taking a look at full games, taking a look at some first fives, taking a look at some player props. If you're able to bet on baseball, he is finding an angle to be able to extract that. I know that he does a lot of work just over there with places like Tout Wars and what have you as well. So he does just a little bit of everything when it comes to the great game of baseball, and a man that you're able to follow at Matt Williams. But on the last name Williams, instead of L's, it is the number 77. So Matt WI77 and then IAMS altogether. And Matt, great to have you aboard. Thank you.
Hey, thanks for having me. Yeah, it's a very common name. I could probably throw a rock and hit two other Matt Williams in my area. So you got to find a way to make the name stand out there on Twitter. So if you're doing betting, why not turn L's into lucky sevens? So that works out for me perfectly. And yeah, as Matt Williams goes, man, if it wasn't for the strike back in the early 90s, he was making a run at the home run title that year. He had like 40-something plus at the break.
Yep, and I still remember him best because we all remember the 2020 COVID pandemic. He was coaching, I believe that it was like the LG Tigers or something like that season as well. It might have been the Kia Tigers, but I remember him doing some coaching at the KBO as well. So a very well-rounded man in terms of baseball. And you are as well. I know that you do a little bit of everything for player props, the full games, the first fives, what have you. Where have you really been able to take advantage of this higher scoring environment this year? Because we've been noticing a lot of things, everything from the rule changes to speed up these pitchers a little bit more. Obviously, the shift has allowed for more base hits. And to me, it just feels like the ball is a little bit more juice. But what have you been noticing has been most affected by these rule changes? Because I think that without a doubt, it's on the totals, but I feel like it's also having a big impact on player props as well.
A lot of the sportsbook, like everyone, were rushing to or trying to catch up, getting in early as soon as those lines are posted, and jumping on anything that is an obvious problem or an obvious mistake. To use the word mistake on their part, you want to kind of jump on those early in the season because, like you said, the totals, God, they've been jumping over. But for me, it doesn't seem like it's just high-scoring games. Like, that's not it. It's like high-scoring innings. I'm not sure I've ever seen a season. Obviously, it's been warmer than it typically is. We haven't had like snow outs or anything like that, but I don't think I've ever seen so many like 5+ run innings. It's been insane, especially on like bad bullpens. You have like easy unders going over like in a snap. I know the other day the Cardinals put up like 9 runs in the last 3 innings or something. So that is one thing I've been noticing as far as getting an angle. I have been having a lot of luck with the first fives this year. The main reason I love doing them is, you get the edge with like an underdog with a good pitcher on the mound. They've been giving out decent prices on like, plus half runs. You can cash out with like a tie after 5 innings. So that's been okay. But because of these big innings I'm talking about, like the 5+ run innings, especially like where you can't trust certain bullpens, I love taking a look and taking some bullpens just out of the equation altogether and trying to bet on those first 5, whether it be against a pitcher for a total or just on a team to take advantage of just the starting pitching by itself. Because I think early on, especially with the stolen bases, how many people are taking advantage of that, which is obviously that is having a big impact on the scoring as well. I'm trying to eliminate as many unknowns as I can. That has been at least my way in the early going to attack it because, we don't have a ton of information. We don't have a ton of information that's kind of leveled out on this year's statistics, especially batting. So yeah, early on, first 5 innings have been where I'd like to go because, the over-unders, man, you get toasted on. Not that I'm shying away. I mean, we'll talk about Sunday. I actually like 3 unders, which I'm terrified about, but I like 3 unders. Yeah, so far, trying to get an early edge when the lines first come out. And then, I've been attacking the first 5 just to try to eliminate as many variables as possible.
And I'm so glad that you mentioned the bullpens because I've noticed that there's been a really big divide this year between the bullpens that are good and the bullpens that have not. Like, even though they traded away Josh Hader, the Milwaukee Brewers bullpen has actually been really good thus far this season. Mm-hmm. The Tampa Bay Rays, shock, surprise, surprise. They've been one of the best bullpens in the big leagues thus far this season. A little bit of that might be due to the competition, but I mean, the Rays have just been incredible despite the fact that they've lost 2 straight games. Are there certain teams that you might be willing to bet on their bullpen? And then, like you were mentioning before, just once in certain spots that you're going to be willing to bet against when it comes to a little bit more of a full game sort of perspective? Because I do think that is a big key with this as well, because gauging some of these bullpens, there are some that I do want to be banking on. And to your point, I'm looking at you, the Chicago White Sox. I've learned my lesson there.
Yeah, the other way as well. I love going full game, especially if I kind of like a matchup and they're facing a bullpen I don't trust. Certainly take advantage of that. Like you said, there has been a big disparity so far. There's plenty of bullpens I'll be willing to ride with, but mostly I do love attacking the poor bullpens in full game. That is something that I've found more advantageous so far rather than trusting pens. I've been attacking the bad ones for full game.
Absolutely. As we do have Matt Williams, who does a great job over at the GameDay MLB. He is joining me on the podcast. And Matt, I know you said a minute ago that there are 3 unders that you do like for Sunday. Mind if I go fish? Because I don't know which 3 that you like. Is one of them perhaps this Rays versus Toronto Blue Jays game? Because this is a total that really jumped out to me. It actually opened up at 9. It has fallen to 8.5. And we all know the Tampa Bay Rays have had this magnificent start to the season. Going into yesterday, they were on pace to average, I'm not even kidding here, like 400 home runs for the season. And I'm going to call what it is. They're not going to hit 400 home runs this season. But we've got an 8.5 total right now with Alek Manoah and Shane McClanahan on the mound. Recognize that both of these offenses have been magnificent this season, but getting an 8.5 total with having McClanahan and Alek Manoah, to me, feels like a very good spot for an under.
Yeah, absolutely. I actually jumped on the 9 as soon as it came out. You knew that was coming down. I wouldn't be surprised if it came down even further. Manoah didn't look his sharpest in spring for anyone who was paying attention, but he's still an incredible pitcher. Shane McClanahan has actually not been too sharp to start the season, but again, he's just starting to get going. I think that he turns in a very strong performance. I think, everyone looks at these 2 games as dangerous as the 2 offenses are. I don't know what they were thinking really opening up at 9. I think, just early season stuff. We've seen how Toronto has looked the last couple of games versus Tampa Bay, but yeah, I jumped on the under 9, and that is certainly one of the ones that I was taking a look at immediately. So that is one of my 3. McClanahan versus Manoah. I can't imagine seeing too many times where you have 2 aces like this lining up where the total is that high, to be honest. So yeah, this was an easy jump, and even at 8.5, sure. That is something I definitely would still ride with.
Yep, no question about it. That was one when you said that you like 3 unders. I'm thinking that is certainly one of them. And what are the other 2 that you are taking a look at? Because I always do think that it is interesting taking a look day in to day out with Major League Baseball, because I feel like there are certain days for overs where you get like those 4 and 5 starters, but we are seeing on Sunday a lot of these ace pitchers, which is why I do think that you might be on a few more unders. What are the other 2 that you are liking for this Sunday?
Yeah, the second one kind of seems like a layup of sorts as well, but Arizona, Miami, it's Zach Gallen versus Sandy Alcantara. That opened up under 7. That's fantastic. I mean, both offenses have actually been okay versus righties. Arizona's been surprising. They actually lost their first series of the year today, which was, interesting. They've been playing really well. Miami, a lot better than people expected. They're actually, I think, carrying like around a 115 run creators plus against righties, but I'm not too worried. Overall, these are 2 offenses that are average at best. And most importantly, they're not really putting much power into the ball, like isolated power against righties. Miami's sitting at like a 137 and Arizona is sitting at like a 147. So I'm not worried about there being those huge innings like when Sandy got chased in his previous start. Gallen looked a lot sharper his last time out. He started off a little shaky in his first 2. So I absolutely love the under here. And I also love the money line for Miami because it's a pretty evenly matched game, but Miami opened up as a -110. I took that because Sandy, goes deep into games. That's what he does. If you have anyone who plays fantasy, he's not a strikeout pitcher. He's going to get you north of like 190 strikeouts just due to volume. His big calling card is volume. So I'm expecting him to last a little longer into the game. I don't really trust either bullpen. And then the Marlins bats handle righties a little bit better in Arizona. So I think Alcantara gets the edge there. So that's my second over-under is Arizona-Miami with Gallen and Sandy.
Absolutely, and I agree with you there. I felt like even if this total reaches 6.5, it really, really, really takes a good pitching matchup for me to like a 6.5 under. That would be one where I'd probably be willing to dive in as well. Gallen had a rough first few starts of the season, but seeing 7 scoreless against the Milwaukee Brewers, I'm willing to dive in once again. It's joining me on the podcast. We do have Matt Williams. He does a great job over at the GameDay MLB. And then got to ask, which one is number 3? Because from there, we do have like the Minnesota Twins and the New York Yankees that have a great pitching matchup with Garrett Cole and Pablo Lopez. But a total of 7 at Yankee Stadium is always a big, giant roll of the dice. That's one where I couldn't necessarily advocate for an under. Where is number 3 at? Because I do think that a little bit of this one probably would have to do with ballpark conditions.
I'm not going to Yankee Stadium. That's not where we're going. I actually like Baltimore White Sox under 8.5. You have Dylan Cease. Don't really need to do much explaining on that end. Versus Grayson Rodriguez, who, despite having a brutal spring and a terrible first start in AAA, has actually looked pretty good since coming up. And he's facing a White Sox lineup that is struggling and is injured. I think Eloy Jimenez got injured again. It was a minor thing, but Tim Anderson's out. They're just having a really rough time going. And of course, Dylan Cease is has the ability to turn in amazing starts one after the other. Even his stat line from his previous start isn't as good as he was because he had some brutal defense behind him. I mean, he could have turned in a much better outing that was even on the score sheet. So I think Baltimore, Chicago, I'll take the under 8.5. Dylan Cease will obviously, I'll be counting on him to carry the bulk of that load. But I think Grayson Rodriguez can hold down the White Sox lineup that's a little banged up. They're a little bit of a free swinging club too. And he has some good stuff that can definitely get people to swing and miss.
Absolutely, and I do like that look there. I'm going to be taking a look at the under because with Grayson Rodriguez, he has a problem with walks. Good news is the Chicago White Sox, they haven't seen a pitch that they don't want to swing at all season long. So that should be about them out a little bit as well to be able to keep that one under. So I like that look there. And I know that's something else that you do. You look at some full games, you look at some first 5, you look at some player props as well. I'm not sure if you have anything for Sunday because typically these come out a little bit more towards the AM. We're recording this more towards Saturday evening, right around 5 o'clock p.m. Pacific time. A lot of places don't have numbers out there, so it's very hard to speculate on that front. But what have been some of the player props that have been working out for you? Because these are offerings that have really become more and more expanded as East Coast books have been able to just pop up and have been able to offer quite a bit more in the last 3 or 4 years. I can tell you right now, out here in Las Vegas, I actually have fewer offerings than most folks out there in a state like New Jersey have in terms of player props. But what has really been working out for you? Because I would have to think that things like stolen bases with the new rules have been working out quite well, but I have to think that total bases as well has been something that has been able to offer quite a bit of profitability.
My favorite are strikeouts for pitchers and total bases for hitters. Stolen bases is interesting because it's been way up, but still, the chances of there actually being one for a specific person is quite low, but you can get pretty good odds on that as well. So I've taken a shot here and there. I've actually done really well with like Corbin Carroll, even Gleyber Torres, who's surprised because you can get such amazing value, but then that's not like a full unit, proposition for me. That's just like, taking a shot here or there. Stolen bases, home runs, stuff like that are more fun. I don't know how much long term I like in there, but for strikeouts and total bases are definitely great, especially early season. Books always put way too low numbers because you're coming out of spring training. They don't know how amped up pitchers can be. There's plenty of guys like Hunter Green, so on and so forth, can, hit their over in 2 innings. I think there was a start last year where he struck out like 9 batters in 3 innings and he had like 7 or 8 earned runs or something. He's amazing too. But just to use him as an example, Kodai Senga, a really solid pitcher to throw off for strikeout props. Nick Lodolo has been really good. But yeah, overall, that has been excellent. One thing I do want to talk to you about, it is Patrick Corbin Day tomorrow.
Yes.
I didn't get to partake last time because the sports books have been really catching up. I mean, they've been making it hard, but he's facing Shane Bieber. You can get the run line for -130. Not that I like to bet on the Guardians offense, to give me those 2 runs. But in this particular case, Washington has like the worst lineup in baseball against right-handers. I think their weighted runs per, let me check here. I think their rated runs per plus, if I'm not mistaken, 54. That's not good. This is something I'll definitely be taking a shot on. And I just want to ask you in general, like, how do you approach those ones where it's almost become like a national holiday for betting? Because it's going to get to a point where they're going to overjuice these just because they know everyone's just jumping on it for the sake of it.
I think it depends upon who I'm betting on for that fade. Like, I actually took a shot on the Washington Nationals the last time they had Patrick Corbin on the mound. That's because they made Jose Suarez about a minus 260 favorite. And, I mean, Patrick Corbin stinks. But in what universe should Jose Suarez be a minus 260 favorite in the middle of April? That was one of those where I actually was willing to bet on the Washington Nationals. And typically when I get that sort of a price, I'm willing to take a shot on a bad pitcher. When you've got someone reliable like a Shane Bieber, I am going to be taking a look at the run line myself. So I think it's about banking on a good pitcher rather than just fading the really bad pitcher, because I just don't want to be in a spot where if it's going to be like the Oakland A's maybe a little bit later on during the season, would you really be wanting to lay heavy chalk on like an Oakland A's starter pitcher? Probably not. So that's the way that I play some of those fades. I'm not sure what you think about that, but I think it's banking on someone like a Shane Bieber like we're going to be getting on Sunday, not banking on Jose Suarez.
Oh, absolutely. Like I said, I couldn't find a price I liked on Suarez. I didn't jump in on Washington just because no matter what my numbers say, I just won't go. I won't go there with Patrick Corbin. I won't do it. But yeah, it's amazing. You can get Bieber and the Guardians for minus 1.5 on the run line. That's great. I'm sure that won't stick around long. I was all over the Mets with Scherzer and Sears. I don't know if you noticed, Scherzer was actually pulled. It's now going to be Jose Butto on Sunday.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, Scherzer's going on Wednesday, so I think I'll stay away from that. There's one thing I will do, no matter what my math says, is if there's too many question marks, I will just ignore it, especially in the early seasons. I am a Mets fan, but I will be completely ignoring this game.
I do not blame you there, and I think that that's a good piece of advice. If you don't know what to do with the game, well, every single one of these teams, they play 162 of them. It's a 200-plus day baseball season, so there's no shortage of action. The NHL and NBA playoffs are started up, so you've got a full menu that is available to you, and a man that does a great job of being able to find where the value is in baseball is you, Matt. It was great to be able to get you on because this was your first time joining the podcast. I know that you do great work over at the GameDay MLB, and certainly would like to extend the invitation to have you back on later on during the season because you do great work over there. And I just want to give you the floor right now to let people know where they can get more of your work on social media and other platforms.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me on. Everyone, you can chase me down on Twitter for the most part. That's where I hang out. MATTWI77IMS. I always keep my DMs open. If you have any questions about baseball, fantasy baseball, betting, shoot them my way. I'm always happy to talk baseball with you. Other than that, I do best bets over on thegameday.com Monday through Friday. And I always throw out my picks out on the social media on the weekend. Yeah, and check out the general. We have a lot of great tools. We're building some really great prop bet searching tools, so you can go in there and just type in a player name and find like every single, like, get the absolute best odds you possibly can. So we're always trying to do the very best over there. We're always building new tools. So yeah, check out thegameday.com, find my work there, and follow me on Twitter.
Yep, and as you can tell, with hardworking people like Matt, that is a great resource for all sports bettors. Matt does an incredible job taking a look at so many things, whether you like first five, full games, player props. Matt does it. He's got a wealth of knowledge when it comes to baseball, and it was great to be able to get those insights today on the podcast. A big thanks to Matt Williams of the GameDay MLB for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now a part of the VSiN family of podcasts. And coming up next, it is that time of the podcast to give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this MLB Sunday as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. Was great to be able to get Matt Williams aboard. No, not the Matt Williams that used to play third base and was on the fringe of being in the Hall of Fame, but a man that he might someday be in the Hall of Fame for his sports betting, the way that he takes a look at things over at thegameday.com. Does a great job taking a look at some first five, some full games, some player props. He checks all the boxes, does an incredible job taking a look at this game that we all know and love, and was his first time on the podcast. Hopefully it will not be the last, because I thoroughly enjoyed that. Big thanks to Matt for joining me in the last segment. Now it is that time of the podcast to give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this MLB Sunday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter feed at GNet_81. Going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first, then the American League games, and any interleague games. Those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. So without further ado, let's dive in on this first game of 901-902 on the betting board. It is the Miami Marlins playing host to the Arizona Diamondbacks as Zach Gallen is going to be going for the Snakes, and Sandy Alcantara is on the bump for Miami. Miami's between a minus 122 and a minus 130 favorite, and between plus 105 and plus 114 is your number on Arizona. 7 is the total. Over and under anywhere between minus 105 minus 115, and I didn't just set my total below 7. I was willing to take an under on 6.5 in this one. I set my total at 6.4. Sandy Alcantara got lit up like a Christmas tree against the Philadelphia Phillies, giving up 9 runs in that one. But prior to that, first 2 starts of the season, 14 and 2/3 innings, gave up 3 runs, and he has been significantly better at home than he has been on the road the last 2 seasons. As a matter of fact, his road ERA is nearly double that of his home ERA the last 2 years of a 1.64. At home, last season gave up 8 home runs in 121 innings, and faces off against an Arizona Diamondbacks lineup that frankly doesn't have a lot of power. Christian Walker last year and 30-plus home runs, but you take a look past that, and you're not going to find a lot of guys that can necessarily take a yard. Evan Longoria is having a nice year, hitting at 285. He's had multiple home runs. You've had Josh Ross really move the line, hitting at 390. That'll be seeing a little bit of regression. Someone like Corbin Carroll is able to get on base, and he's been a good base stealer this year, but not necessarily a lot of power. And really, the same goes for the Miami Marlins. You have seen some life out of Jorge Soler. He was out of the fold yesterday, but overall, he's been able to do a really nice job getting the team 4 home runs. Luis Reyes has been sort of in and out of the fold the last few days as well. He pinch hit yesterday, hitting a .511, which is incredible, but really, other than Soler along with Garrett Cooper, who he's currently hitting a little bit above a 300 last season. For Mr. Cooper, he was only able to give the team 9 home runs, but I know that he's had 15 plus in his career. You really don't have a lot of power with this lineup either, and you just take a look at this Miami Marlins lineup. Once you really get outside of the 6-hole hitter, Gene Segura, I do think is going to be able to pick it up, but he, along with Jesus Sanchez, Avicio Garcia, Garrett Hampson, Nick Fortes, you're able to go down the list of guys hitting below the mid-O's line of 200. Now, both of these bullpens do have some shakiness, but both of these bullpens also do have signs of brightness as well. JT Chargois has been solid, but he is going to be on the injured list. He is out for this one for the Miami Marlins, which does leave them with AJ Puck, who I do like. Huascar Brazoban has had a little bit of a rough start to the season, but he's okay. When you get into guys like Tanner Scott, Devin Smeltzer, those are the untrustworthy guys. And then for the Arizona Diamondbacks, you've got Kyle Nelson, Andrew Chafin, pair of guys with a sub-3 ERA last year, picking up Miguel Castro is solid. When you get into Scott McGowan and company, not so great. And it has been a little bit of a rough start to the season as well for Zach Gallen, but I trust in Gallen getting back to that good form, and I think we saw that in his last start. 7 scoreless innings against the Milwaukee Brewers, and for Gallen last season, he was great on the road. 2.59 ERA, give it up 0.9 home runs per 9 innings. Last year, he had right around about 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, was able to limit the walks. Thus far this season, even with the rough start, still just 5 walks in 17 and 2/3 innings, 21 strikeouts. Sandy Alcantara has never really been a strikeout guy. He just goes deep into games, and I do think that facing off against this Arizona lineup, he is going to be able to do so. I did set my total at 6.4. With both pitchers being dominant, and with this being a very pitcher-friendly ballpark, I don't think we're going to be seeing a lot of scoring, so take a look at the under, and I do think that Sandy bounces back after that rough start against the Philadelphia Phillies. I did set the money line at a minus 142, so I'm going to be taking a look at the money line of the Miami Marlins, and I'm going to be taking a look at this total under as well. 903, 904 on the betting board. It's the Philadelphia Phillies on the road facing off against the Cincinnati Reds. Yes, we are on to Cincinnati, and Cincinnati is on to Luis Cessa getting the start, and Aaron Supernola is going to look to be super for the Phils, and the total on this game is 9 over and under anywhere between minus 105 to a minus 115 with Philadelphia. They are anywhere between a minus 175 to a minus 185 favorite, anywhere between plus 155 and plus 170 on the Reds. If you're looking at a run line of the Philadelphia Phillies, that is currently at a minus 115, and I'd be willing to lay a minus 115 and really not a whole heck of a lot more on that run line. I did set my run line price at a minus 118, so I'm going to be willing to dive in there for the Philadelphia Phillies. I think that Aaron Nola is going to be able to give a relatively solid start in comparison to what we've been seeing here early on this season. He and Zach Wheeler have been struggling out of the gates, a 7.04 ERA for Aaron Nola across his first 3 starts, 15 and a third innings. The hits have just been really piling up on him as swing and miss stuff. It's been right around 9 strikeouts per 9 innings. You'd expect it to be a little bit higher than that, but I think much of the reason why Nola struggled has been because he had to face off against the Texas Rangers and the New York Yankees on the road to begin the season. The Miami Marlins start, that was just relatively deplorable, but I do think that he's going to be able to find his form. We've seen the Phillies have slow starts in the past, and we are certainly seeing that, and we're seeing that especially with the bats as well. As entering into yesterday, the Philadelphia Phillies were doing a good job moving the line, hitting at 285. That was actually the top mark in the National League, but it's a very top-heavy 285 as you've got Trey Turner, Bryson Stott, Alec Boehm, Nick Castellanos all entering into yesterday, hitting at least a 308, but then you've got guys like a Josh Harrison, Jay Cave hitting below the Mendoza line of a 200. Christian Pache, he's been able to reach base when he's been out there, but I don't have a lot of faith that that's going to be continuing on. Brandon Marsh has currently got a 425 on base. I think that we're going to see a little bit of regression there. And for Kyle Schwarber, 4 home runs thus far this season. Not a guy that's doing an amazing job of being able to get on base himself, so I do have my question marks on that front. And then with regards to this Cincinnati Reds team, you don't have a single guy that really returns from last year that had north of 12 home runs, and that is a massive issue as Jake Fraley is someone that was able to do a nice job there, and Jake Fraley has been able to do a good job of moving the line. You do have quite a few guys for the Cincinnati Reds that they get on base, like their leadoff man of Jonathan India, hitting about a 300 going into yesterday. I was mentioning Fraley, he was hitting a 314 going into yesterday. All in all, though, for the Reds, you've got your top 5 or so guys like a Spencer Steer, TJ Friedel, also hitting about a 300 or so. And then you've got guys like a Will Benson, who started out the year 1 of 20. Haven't been able to get a lot out of the catcher spot. Nick Senzel, when he's gotten opportunities, has not been terrific. Jose Barreto and company. And it's really been up to Mr. Jason Vossler to be able to supply power. 3 home runs thus far this season. For the Reds, it's a very inconsistent bullpen in that you've got 2 really nice pieces. Fernando Cruz along with Alexis Diaz. They both had a sub-2 ERA last season, but Buck Farmer, Ian Gabot, throw in there someone like Derek Law. These are not guys holding down the fort. And for the Philadelphia Phillies, a bottom 8 team with regards to their bullpen ERA. It's right through Dominguez after a rough start to the season. He's been able to pick it up, and I will say Jose Alvarado right now looks absolutely incredible as he has struck out the side in 4 out of the last 5 appearances that he has showed up in, so that's great. But you've got Craig Kimbrell in the bullpen, and we all know what that means. That's not too terrific. They pick up Gregory Soto. He is upping himself thus far this season. And for Luis Cessa, he was able to put it together towards the back half of last season. You take a look at the 2022 campaign, and in the month of September into his last start of October, he had right around about a 3.75 or so ERA. Recognize that it's not amazing, but you know what? He was able to do an okay job being able to limit the walks to right around 3 walks per 9 innings. His strikeout stuff has never necessarily been supreme, but it felt like he was really coming into his own, and as far this year, he's just been lit up in his first 2 starts. Given up a combined 7 runs over the course of 9 innings, 5 walks, 2 home runs allowed, so that has been relatively rough. I do think that the Philadelphia Phillies are going to be able to get to him, but with this Reds lineup, just not a lot of pop in there. I do think that for the Philadelphia Phillies, they're sort of trying to mix and match at this point as well. I do think that for the Philadelphia Phillies, they are going to be able to get the best of Mr. Nola in this spot after, yesterday things did not go their way as the Reds were able to put up 13 runs in that one. I do think that Nola is going to be the stopper in this spot, so at a minus 115, I'm willing to lay that run line. So I tell it at 8.6, I think that calmness returns even with this being in a little bit more of a hitter-friendly ballpark, so you're at a 9, looking at the under, and I'm looking at the run line of the Phillies, 9-5-9-6 on the betting board. The Pittsburgh Pirates at the road face-off against the St. Louis Cardinals. Miles Michaelis goes for the Cards, and Mitch Keller is on the bump for Pittsburgh. And Pittsburgh in between a plus 150 to a plus 158 underdog, and in between minus 170 to a minus 180. Your price on St. Louis in FZ total under is minus 115, and the over is minus 105. Needed at least a plus 158 to take a shot on the Buccos. Would like to see this get a little bit closer to a plus 160, but at current numbers, I'm going to be taking a look at the Pittsburgh Pirates on the money line. Miles Michaelis just has not been himself since he was an all-star last season. As a matter of fact, you take a look really since very late June on of last season, and he's got nearly a 5 ERA. Things have really elevated with him now. You know that with Miles Michaelis, he's not going to be giving up a lot of free passes over the last 2 years. His walks per 9 rate, that's hovering in the neighborhood of 2, but he just gives up contact upon contact. Thus far this season, he has a 10.05 ERA, giving up at least 5 runs in all 3 of his starts. He's coming off of giving up 3 home runs against Colorado Rockies. Now, that was at Coors Field at elevation, so that has a little bit to do with it. And for Mitch Keller, he was really able to put it together towards the back half of last season. his second half of last year, has numbers very similar to what we've seen in his first 3 starts thus far this year. At 3.57 ERA, he's got 22 strikeouts in 17 2/3 innings. Walks continue to be an issue with 8 walks, but Mitch Keller has turned into a guy that you're able to rely upon to be able to get some strikeouts. He has given up 3 home runs thus far this season, and he is going up against the St. Louis Cardinals lineup that you've got a lot of guys who are able to bat the ball. You haven't seen a lot of home run power out of Paul Goldschmidt along with Nolan Arenado to begin the season. They combined 3 home runs entering into yesterday, but both of those guys entered hitting north of a 325. Nolan Gorman, 4 home runs. He's hitting north of a 300, and he's really the forgotten guy because we talk about these stud outfielders like Dylan Carlson, Alec Burleson, Tyler O'Neill, what have you, but he's been amazing. Jordan Walker had that great hit streak to begin the season. He's been able to do a good job for the team as well. And Brendan Donovan last year hit about a 340 when he was at home for the Pittsburgh Pirates. It's been really the Brian Reynolds show in terms of the offense. Entered into yesterday hitting north of a 300 with 5 home runs. The rest of the guys, they just need to find a way to move the line. Andrew McCutcheon's hitting above a 300. Got my question marks there. He's a little bit up there in age. Connor Joe is someone I always really liked. He's hitting above a 300, but then you get into Jack Wisniewski, G-Man Choi. You're able to throw in there the young guy Ji-Wan Bae hitting at 225 or lower, and you do have your question marks there. They're dealing with an injury to Chase DeYoung in the bullpen, but I actually really like what I've seen out of Colin Olderman at sub-3 ERA over the last 2 seasons. David Benner, he's able to hold down the fort end for the St. Louis Cardinals. You were noticing that Ryan Helsley was a little bit hit or miss towards back half last season. Seems like he's starting to find himself. Andre Palante, though, has not necessarily been too terrific in this bullpen as well. Just hard to really have faith in Miles Mikolas. I do like what I'm seeing out of Mitch Keller. The injury to O'Neill Cruz, no question that's going to be hurting this Pittsburgh Pirates team, but I think that they're going to be able to get to Miles Mikolas in this spot as everyone else has been able to thus far this season. I think that the Cardinals are going to be able to get theirs, even though it is a middle of April day out there in St. Louis. Conditions are not necessarily so great. I do think that there's going to be free passes given up by Keller, just a lot of contact to be had against Mikolas in general. So I did set my total at 9.1. I'm going to be looking at the over in this spot, and when it comes to the Buccos, a plus 159 or greater, going to be willing to take a look at them on the money line. 907, 908 on the betting board. The LA Dodgers do play-offs to the Chicago Cubs as Drew Smyly looks to smile his way to a win for the Cubs, and Julio Arias is on the bump for the Dodgers. And the Dodgers, they are big favorites, anywhere between minus 220 to a minus 230, anywhere between plus 195 and plus 210 is your number on the Cubs. 8.5 is the total, over and under, anywhere between minus 105, minus 115. Currently finding that Dodgers run line at a minus 105, and that's a big bargain. I'm going to be willing to take them on the run line. I was willing to lay up to a minus 125. I'm always going to price Dodgers run lines at a little bit more of a generous number to be taking those rather than money lines, just because take a look at this Dodgers team. They have won 118 regular season games since the start of the 2022 season. 102 of those have been by 2+ runs. And now you've got Julio Arias on the mound, who actually has a ERA that's about a half a point higher at home rather than on the road over the last 2 seasons, but has been really good regardless. Thus far this season, he's allowed just 3 runs over 18 innings, going 6 innings in every one of his starts, just 2 walks across those 3 starts. Swing and miss stuff is there, 20 punch-outs, so he has been absolutely amazing, and he's backed up by a Dodgers bullpen that was number 1 in the National League in terms of ERA last season, and it's not necessarily big-name guys. Yancy Almonte, Alex Vesia, Caleb Ferguson, Evan Phillips, these are all guys that had a sub-3.3 ERA. They're now without Craig Kimbrell, which helps. And for the Cubs, that is a little bit of an ailment that you got with this team. You do have Michael Fulmer, Brad Boxberger in the bullpen, and Mark Leiter Jr. has been a guy that's been relatively okay, but when you're trusting in someone like an Adbert Alzolay, Michael Rucker, Julian Merriweather, that's not too terrific. And for the Cubs, they entered into this series in the bottom 5 in the big leagues in terms of home runs. Now, on Friday, I believe that they slugged out 5 of them. That was able to help them out. Patrick Wisdom entered into last night's game, having hit 4 home runs. And even though you don't have a lot of home run power, you got guys moving the line. Nico Horner, Ian Apt, Dansby Swanson all entered into yesterday, hitting north of a 340. Getting back C.A. Suzuki is tremendous. Cody Bellinger is starting to look a little bit more like the MVP guy of a few seasons ago. I don't think he's ever going to get there, though. And then for the Dodgers, you can tell that they've been missing Justin Turner. They've been missing Gavin Lux, but this is still a good lineup. Mookie Betts had just 2 home runs, hitting at 250 entering into yesterday. You know that he is going to be able to pick it up. Now, the question is, the bottom of the fold, guys like Jason Hayward, Miguel Rojas, what have you, but you've got Will Smith getting jiggy with it. James Oatman has been able to 280. He's been able to give the team 3 home runs. Max Muncy looks like he's getting back into his old form. 6 home runs in the first 14 games of the season. And for the Cubs, not a lot of faith here in Drew Smyly. Smyly has been able to do a nice job of not giving up free passes, but he is someone that when he does get hit, he gets hit very hard, as he's given up thus far this season a 6.52 ERA across his 9 2/3 innings in 2 starts, allowing 8 runs, 7 of which are earned. And you go back to his 2022 campaign, guy just really couldn't pitch on the road, giving up right around 1.5 home runs per 9 innings. Bonus at a 261 off of him for a 4.23 ERA when he was away from Wrigley. I do think that Julio Urias is going to be able to put the Cubs on lockdown. I think that the Dodgers are going to be able to get some offense generated in this spot as well, but I trust in this Dodgers bullpen being able to keep this game under semi-total at an 8.2. So you're at an 8.5. Looking at the under to go along with that Dodgers run line. 909, 910 on the betting board. The San Diego Padres play out to the Milwaukee Brewers as Wade Miley hopes to have a party out in San Diego for the Brewers, and Yu Darvish is on the bump for the Padres, and the Padres are between -170 and -175 favorites, between +148 and +158 year number on the Brew Crew. 7.5 to 8 is the total on the 8 unders, -120. The overs even on the 7.5. Overs between -115 and -120. Unders between even and -105. And if you're looking at that Padres run line, you're finding it at a +120. Needed at least a +112 to consider that Padres run line, and I'm going to dive in on it. Wade Miley has actually looked very solid to begin the season. He's made 2 starts. He has been able to hold down the fort for this team, but as we know, Wade Miley, very much a soft tosser, gives up a lot of contact, which means that this is not the world's worst ballpark for him, but I do think that the Padres, they're going to be able to build off the success that they had yesterday. They were able to put up 8+ runs. That was a very good sign for a team that was really scuffling, and you still do have some guys that they just haven't been themselves. Like Juan Soto is not living up to the money that he's making. He's hitting a $182 thus far this season. I recognize that his on-base percentage is significantly better than that, but I mean, he doesn't necessarily hit a ton of home runs. It's been Xander Bogaerts who's really been doing it for this team. He's hitting well north of a 350 right now. You do have guys at the bottom of the fold like Austin Nola, Matt Carpenter and company that are not holding up their end of the bargain, but you got someone like an Jose Azucar who was able to move the line. Manny Machado, he was able to get a home run early on during this series. Jake Cronenworth, he had a pair of bombs yesterday, so you do like to see that. And for the Milwaukee Brewers, they're hitting as a collective right around about a 290 at home with 6 runs per game. On the road, it's been more like 4 runs per contest and hitting well below a 230. So this team is very young, and home and road splits are a little bit of a concern for them right now. You do have guys like Brian Anderson, Jesse Winker hitting above 275. Mark Brasso has been very solid for this team. Bryce Harang has been able to do a good job of moving the line, but we're seeing regression from someone like a Joey Weimer, and this is very much to be expected. Christian Yelich just has not been able to live up to that contract that he signed a few seasons ago. And for the Milwaukee Brewers, they entered into yesterday number 1 in the league in terms of bullpen ERA, and it's starting to go upward a little bit. They are still number 1 with this regard, and I do like this bullpen. You've got guys like a Hobie Milner who did get lit up a little bit yesterday, along with Peter Strzelski and Matt Bush. These are guys that have been able to do a nice job all season long, but they've had to mix and match a little bit with the Brandon Woodruff injury. You can sense that they're starting to get a little bit tired. I believe that they're on a stretch of playing 15 games in 15 days. Meanwhile, for the Padres, Josh Hader, that's someone that the Brewers would really love to have right now, but getting to him has been the, shall we say, challenge for this team. Steven Wilson has been able to do a nice job, sub-3 ERA last season. About Chrisman is someone that I like last season. He has not been himself thus far this season with north of a 9 ERA. Domingo Tapia, someone that you don't necessarily have a lot of faith in, but I do think that for the Padres, they are going to be able to get a tremendous start out of Yu Darvish. I liked what I saw from him in the World Baseball Classic. Was not such a savory start for him last time out, giving up 5 runs against the New York Metropolitans, but for Yu Darvish, you do want to be gauging him much differently at home rather than on the road. In his 2+ seasons with the San Diego Padres, he's got an ERA that is north of a 1.5 lower when he is at home rather than when he is on the road. Much of it has to do with, well, Petco Park is a very pitcher-friendly ballpark in which it is very hard to be able to hit home runs out of, so I do factor that in to the handicap in this spot, and I do think that for the Milwaukee Brewers, they're going to have a little bit of a tough time getting to Yu Darvish in this spot. So I did set my total at 7.4. I'm going to be taking a look at the 7.5 under, and when it comes to the Padres, we're going to take them on the run line, getting a +120, needed at least a +112 there. 9-11, 9-12 in the main board. The LA Dodgers, they hit the road. They're going to be facing off against the Boston Red Sox, as you've got Garrett Whitlock, who's going to be going for the Sox, and Mr. Reed Detmers is on the bump for the Angels. And for the Angels, find them in a relative pick'em game. You're going to be getting them as good as a +102, as bad as -110. Meanwhile, with the Boston Red Sox, they're anywhere between a -106 to a -112 with a total of 9. With the over, it is -120 and the under is even. And for Garrett Whitlock, I did set him as a -103 favorite. So we need to get to at least a +103 on the Angels. Currently, I'm seeing a +102, but this is going to be a spot where if the money continues to come in on the Boston Red Sox, then we're able to get more timelines because I'm doing this as we're getting very early openers. I would be willing to take a shot on the LA Angels. Pretty much whoever the underdog is, that's what I'm going to be taking. I've got this as a relative pick'em game myself, setting the Red Sox at a -103. And for Reed Detmers, he had that just absolutely amazing no-hitter towards the beginning part of the 2022 season, but when he really was able to take hold was when he went down to the minor league system, because that no-hitter actually was probably not necessarily the world's greatest thing to happen to him, because after that he was getting completely shelled. He got just 2 strikeouts in that no-hitter. It was a very, very fortunate no-hitter. I think that I feel very safe in saying that, but you take a look at what happened after he came back up to the major league level, and he just became a completely different pitcher. From the start of July on, he made 13 starts, 3.04 ERA, gave up just 2 home runs over the course of 71 innings, and his strikeouts per 9 rate, it rose to just below 10. So I do think that he is really starting to come into his own, and he's backed up by a bullpen that, we can poo-poo the Angels bullpen, and is it really that great? No, but at the same time, if you look at the raw numbers, and the raw numbers itself, they were 11th in terms of ERA post All-Star break last season. You do have a few guys that are able to give you a few okay innings, like Jose Quiada is someone I do like. Carlos Estevez, Ryan Tepera, these guys are not necessarily so trustworthy, but I think that Detmers is going to do a good job of rolling them out. And then for Garrett Woodlock, I just don't understand why they're trotting him out there as a starter. He was really good in the bullpen when they had him as a starter last year. He struggled, and in his first start of the year, he just did not look prepared. Gives up 3 home runs in that start against the Rays now. Everyone is giving up runs to the Tampa Bay Rays at this point, and for the Boston Red Sox, they were able to just really slug their way to a victory yesterday. You've got a lot of guys at the top of the fold that are doing their part. Alex Verdugo is hitting above a 300, along with Remy Altapia, Justin Turner. He is starting to find it. Rafael Devers has 7 home runs, but you take a look at the entirety, and the bottom of the fold has not been there for them. Tristan Casas, coupled with Yu Chang, Kike Hernandez, Christian Arroyo, Connor Wong, all these guys earning below the Mendoza line of a 200, and for the Angels, they've got the far better lineup. Anthony Rendon has actually been able to get on base when he's not doing off-the-field shenanigans. You've got Joey Ohtani, Mike Trout, both of these guys hitting above a 300. We all know the power that they both possess. Hunter Renfroe's hitting above a 275 with a trio of homers. You've had Gio Urshela doing a good job of being able to move the line, so it's a very interesting circumstance because you've got a Red Sox team that they bring in Kenley Jansen as a closer, and he had 40-plus saves last season, but anyone that has bet on a game that involves Kenley Jansen trying to close it out, you know that that's typically an adventure in and of itself. Seeing this total get down to a 9, I'm going to be willing to take a look at the over as a result. Set my total at a 9.3, and I think that this should be a relative pick'em game. I set the Red Sox as the slightest of slight favorites at a -103 because they are at home, but if this continues to be a spot where we see the LA Angels as a slight underdog, pretty much any form of plus money, I'm going to be willing to take a shot on the LA Angels to go along with this 9 over. 9-13, 9-14 on the betting board. It is the Minnesota Twins in the road face-off against the New York Yankees as Garrett Cole goes for the Yanks and Pablo Lopez goes for the Minnesota Twins. With the Twins, you're going to be getting them anywhere between a plus 135 to a plus 140. Meanwhile, the Yankees are between minus 148 and minus 155. 7 is your total. Over is between minus 110 and minus 115. Under is any between minus 105 and minus 110. And with the Yankees, set them at a minus 152 on the money line. If you are taking a look at the run line, you're able to get a very juicy plus 145. I do not want to be chancing fate here. I did set the Yankees at a minus 152. Here at minus 148, I'm going to be willing to ride with the money line as the Minnesota Twins. They enter into this game with the top team ERA in the big leagues. The starting pitching has been terrific. The bullpen has been really good as well. Do not forget about these guys out there in the bullpen. Yohan Duran is one of the more underrated guys in the big leagues, throwing 100-plus miles per hour. Jorge Lopez, Jorge Alcala. These guys have been terrific. Giovanni Morin is someone I do like. And for the New York Yankees, they do back up Garrett Cole with some relatively solid pieces. Clay Holmes, it just feels like he's broken at this point, but you've got Wandy Peralta and Ron Metanacchio. Greg Weisert has really good stuff, has yet to be able to put it together, but has really good stuff. So there are some nice pieces there, and Garrett Cole has been flat out dealing thus far this season, giving up 3 runs in 19 and a third innings. He's always had a problem with the deep ball. As a matter of fact, I believe they led American League starters in terms of home runs surrendered last season, but he's done a much better job of that thus far this season, and the accuracy has really been there for him as well. As last year he had fewer than 2.5 walks per 9 innings. Meanwhile, Pablo Lopez sometimes can get a little bit out of sorts, but thus far this season, just 5 walks over the course of 20 innings. That'll allow him to go deeper into games, which I think is very significant. Last year, he had more around 2.65 walks per 9 innings throughout his career. He's been able to work on this more and more. And last season, what I thought was very intriguing while he was with the Miami Marlins, they provide a very, very pitcher-friendly ballpark. He had a 4.55 ERA at home, but a 3 ERA on the road. He gave up about 1.15 home runs per 9 innings whenever he was away from home, but did a really good job of being able to limit contact in general. And I do think that for the Minnesota Twins, they are going to be able to get a good performance out of him once again. The big thing for the Minnesota Twins is that you don't necessarily have a bunch of guys that are going to go out there and hit a bunch of home runs. Joey Gallo has 3 home runs thus far this season, but he's now landed on the injured list for this team, which means that you've got mostly guys that are going to be moving the line for you, like a Trevor Larnach, Michael A. Taylor, guys like this, and I'm not sure if they're going to be able to do their part. Christian Vasquez, Donovan Solano, they have been terrific. They're hitting north of a 320 right now, but Carlos Correa has had a little bit of a slow start to the season. Meanwhile, for the New York Yankees, this team is an all-or-nothing lineup as you've got so many guys that they're able to pump out the home runs, but they're going to give you a lot of strikeouts. Now, to the credit of Giancarlo Stanton and Anthony Rizzo, after last season, both of these guys hit below a 230. They've been doing a much better job of moving the line this season, with Stanton hitting more around about a 270. You've got Rizzo hitting that fold of north of a 300. As we know, Aaron Judge, one of the most well-rounded players in the game, hitting at 300 with 5 home runs entering into Saturday. And then you got Franchi Cordero, who's been able to give you 4 home runs this season. After a tough start to the season, it seems as though Anthony Volpe is starting to find his form as well. So I do like the way that the Yankees have been able to move the line here at a 7. Do think that we went just a little bit too low because Garrett Cole is still prone to giving up a few home runs, and this is just a Yankees team that in general, even though balls in Yankee Stadium aren't going to be flying out as much in the month of April as, say, June, July, what have you, they still do have enough power to be able to muscle up a home run or two. Looks like it's going to be pretty fair conditions on Sunday, and I do think that they should be able to get a home run or two off of Pablo Lopez, get a few deep balls to be able to get this total over, and I do think that Garrett Cole and this bullpen going to be able to get it done. I did set the Yankees as a favorite of minus 152, willing to take them on the money line, and with this total, going to be taking the 7 over. This leads to the DK Nation write-up, 9:15, 9:16 on the betting board. The Tampa Bay Rays hit the road face-off against the Toronto Blue Jays. Alek Manoah is going to be going for the Jays, and Shane McClanahan is on the bump for the Tampa Bay Rays. The Rays are very slight favorites, any between minus 108 to minus 115, and between minus 105 to plus 102 is your number on Toronto. 8.5 is the total. Over and under, anywhere between minus 105 to a minus 115. Total actually opened up at 9, and despite the move, I'm going to be willing to make my right up the under in this spot. You've got a good old situation of something's got to give. Tampa Bay Rays have been the top scoring offense in the league. These two teams, they have been the top teams in terms of batting average in the league. Tampa Bay Rays have also been the top team in terms of runs allowed in the league, and you've got a pair of teams in the Tampa Bay Rays and the Toronto Blue Jays that have a pair of all-star starters that are on the mound. Alek Manoah, he has been amazing whenever he has pitched in Toronto. A career 2.53 ERA with 0.6 home runs per 9 innings and 22 career starts north of the border. So he has done an incredible job of holding teams down when he has been at home. Meanwhile, you've got Shane McClanahan, who's actually got a career ERA that's about 0.2 points lower when he is on the road rather than when he is at home. He had that injury that really derailed his Cy Young candidacy for last season, and he's come out, he's given up 3 runs over the course of 3 starts thus far this season. Walks are a little bit up, 9 walks in 17 innings thus far this season, but a little bit over 11 punch-outs per 9 innings, and he's backed up by a Rays bullpen that has been the best in the American League thus far this season in terms of ERA. Now, they had to really dive deep into it because they pretty much took the wholesale approach yesterday with guys like Josh Fleming and Kevin Kelly having to give some good innings, but you've got, as a result, more of your trustworthy guys like Colin Pouchet, Pete Fairbanks, Jason Adams on call and ready to go in this one. And for the Toronto Blue Jays, they're 8th in the league in terms of bullpen ERA. You've got Zach Pop, Tim Meza were able to do a nice job. I like what I've seen out of Yimi Garcia. Eric Swanson had a sub-2 ERA with the Seattle Mariners last year. Now, as we know, we've got some new ballpark dimensions in Toronto thus far this season that should lead to more powers. And for the Blue Jays, they haven't necessarily had a bunch of home runs thus far this season. They entered into the day on Saturday with 16 home runs over the course of their first 14 games. You'd expect that to be a little bit up, but the team entered into yesterday as well, hitting at 285 as a collective, and you got to figure that that's going to be going downward, as Matt Chapman is amazing, but hitting a 4.58 353, not necessarily sustainable. You've got Kevin Kiermaier, Bo Bichette, Vlad Guerrero Jr., all hitting at least a 333. I could see Bichette and Vlad Guerrero Jr. once again having big seasons. Kevin Kiermaier expecting a little bit of regression there. And heck, I do think that Brandon Belt, who's hitting below the Mendoza line of 200, is going to be able to pick it up. And for the Tampa Bay Rays, they were 25th in the league in home runs last year. I think that they had like 132 home runs in 162 games last season. They had entering into the day on Saturday a grand total of 34 home runs. I'm sorry, but we are going to be seeing regression with this, and I really like the way that the Rays are putting things together. Brandon Lau coming back is magnificent. Randy Arozarena, Wander Franco, these are a pair of guys that are going to be able to hit at 300 plus. Both of these guys have solid power. I just don't think that the Tampa Bay Rays, who are on pace to hit like north of 350 home runs, are necessarily going to be doing quite that. Like, you've got Luke Raley right now, who's got 3 home runs and has about a 325 on base. I do think that there's going to be a little bit of regression there. Calling card has always been pitching for the Tampa Bay Rays, and I do think that this is a little bit overreactionary on Tampa Bay. I recognize that they went on that run of 13 straight games. Now they've lost 2 in a row, and the money's coming in on them, but I do think that Alek Manoah going to continue to be magnificent at home for the Toronto Blue Jays, and I do think that we're starting to see regression with this Rays offense. So I do think that Shane McClanahan going to be amazing on the mound as well. I set my total at 6.9. My right up here, that is going to be on the under. And with the Blue Jays, being able to get them at right around even money / a very, very small plus price in a few spots as well, I'm going to be willing to ride with the Jays, set them at a minus 124. My right up here, that is going to be on the under. 917, 918 on the betting board. It is the Baltimore Orioles in the road face-off against the Chicago White Sox. Dylan Cease is going to be going for the Sox, and Grayson Rodriguez is on the bunk for Baltimore. And Baltimore, they are anywhere between a plus 115 to a plus 122 underdog, and between minus 130 to minus 140 is your number. On the White Sox, 8.5 is your total. The under is anywhere between minus 110 and minus 115. The over is anywhere between minus 105 and minus 110. And with the White Sox, I did set them at a minus 167. I'm going to be one to ride with them. You've got one of the most dominant pitchers in all of baseball in Dylan Cease. That if there is trepidation with him, it is the fact that sometimes you can have him just get his pitch count up, because he is someone that is going to give up right around 3.8, 3.9 walks per 9 innings, and that leads to a bullpen of the White Sox that is currently dead last in the league in terms of ERA. When it's all said and done, I think that they're going to be much better than that, but they certainly are a far from impressive bunch. I do think that guys like Jimmy Lambert, Aaron Bummer, Ronaldo Lopez, Kendall Graveman, that all had a sub 3.5 ERA, they're going to be able to run into form, but it has been a really rough season for them. But getting back to Dylan Cease, this guy's just a strikeout machine. Last year had right around about 12 punch-outs per 9 innings. He was absolutely masterful with a 2.20 ERA. Actually had a lower ERA when he was on the road rather than when he was at home. And for Grayson Rodriguez, I think the future for him is about 2 years from now. He has really good stuff, but at the same time, he's coming off of giving up 5 runs in 4 1/3 innings at home against the Oakland A's. He's clearly got some command issues. We saw that at the minor league level on his first 2 starts. 5 walks in 9 1/3 innings. He's been able to get 11 strikeouts, but he's sort of Rick the Wild Thing Vaughn at this point in his career. Now, good news is he's backed up by a lineup that is just absolutely ripping the cover off the ball. I believe that the Orioles have 6+ runs in something like 4 out of their last 5 games. These guys are completely mashing as of right now. You've got Ryan Mountcastle, who had that 9 RBI day. He's got 6 home runs to begin the season. Adley Rutschman, Austin the A's kid, Ode Mateo, these guys are laying north of a 325. Rutschman had that big walk-off home run against the A's about a few days ago. Cedric Mullins is off to a little bit of a rough start to the season in terms of average, but still giving you about a 350 on base, along with Adam Frazier. So these guys have been magnificent, though I do think that we are going to see Dylan Cease do a solid job in this spot. And for the Chicago White Sox, don't necessarily have a lot of power with this team. Luis Robert, he's got 5 home runs to begin the season. He had a 5 out of the team's 14 home runs entering into the day on Saturday. I do think that he is going to be regressing a little bit, and you don't necessarily have anyone other than him that's going to be able to give you a bunch of home runs other than Eli Jimenez, who's been dealing with injury, but you do have guys that are able to get on base. As entering into Saturday, Robert, I mentioned before, Andrew Vaughn, Oscar Colas, Tim Anderson, Yasmani Grandal, Andrew Benintendi. Really all these guys, other than Colas, were hitting at least at 275, so they do a good job of being able to reach base. They entered into this series number 3 in the American League behind the Blue Jays and the Tampa Bay Rays in terms of batting average, and for the Baltimore Orioles, they've really had to expend their bullpen a lot as well. I believe that this is day number 10 with a game for them, so that's a bit of an issue. You've got Brian Baker, Logan Gillespie, who I'm not necessarily too impressed by in the bullpen. Felix Bautista is a terrific closer, and Danny Columbi, who they picked up from the Minnesota Twins, is someone I do like, but They did lose Orde Lopez towards the back half of last season. This bullpen, you're seeing some big-time regression marks with them, so it is a circumstance where I do think that the Chicago White Sox are going to do a nice job of holding down the Baltimore Orioles. I did set my total at 7.6. I think that Dylan Cease going to be able to do his part. I do think that Rodriguez going to round into form a little bit as well, and this is actually a good matchup for him because I mentioned the walks issues of Rodriguez. The one team that does not have any plate discipline whatsoever right now is the Chicago White Sox, so this is a circumstance where I set my total at 7.6. I'm looking at the under, but with the White Sox, made them more around a minus 165 favorite. If you are taking a look at them on the run line, you'd be able to get that anywhere between about a plus 143 to a plus 150. I'd rather play it safe with this bullpen, though, and take the money line rather than that, and take a look at this total under 919, 920 on the betting board. It is the Walker Texas Rangers and the Red face-off against the Houston Astros, as Framber Valdez is going to be going for the Stros, and Andrew Heaney is on the bump for the Texas Rangers. 7.5 is your total. Over and under anywhere between minus 105 and minus 115 with Houston. They are anywhere between minus 185 and minus 205 favorites. Anywhere between plus 170 and plus 175 is your number on the Texas Rangers. And if you're taking a look at the run line of the Houston Astros, you're actually getting that at a plus 110. And when it came to the Astros, I was willing to lay up to a minus 110 on the run line. I set them more around a minus 173 on the money line, and with Framber Valdez, he's actually had an ERA that has been right around 0.7 points higher when he's been at home rather than when he's been on the road since the beginning of the 2022 season, but I do think that he's going to be able to do a better job in this ordeal than Andrew Heaney. Heaney, since the beginning of the 2022 season, has been masterful with the strikeout numbers. He's getting right around 12.5 to 13 strikeouts per 9 innings, but he's already given up 2 home runs in 7 2/3 innings as far this season. Began his season by giving up 7 runs on 8 outs in his first start of the campaign against the Baltimore Orioles. Looked a little bit better against the Kansas City Royals, but with Andrew Heaney, it's about as Jekyll and Hyde as it gets with him. And for Framber Valdez, despite the fact that he does give up quite a few walks. Last season, he did have north of 3 walks per 9 innings. He does an incredible job of being able to keep guys on and just being able to keep the ball in the yard. He's given up 1 home run in 19 innings thus far this season. Last year, he gave up about a half a home run per 9 innings, and he's backed up by a bullpen that last season was number 1 in the league in terms of ERA. I figured that there would be a little bit of regression with that, as Seth Martinez, Ryan Stanek, Brian Abreu, Rafael Montero, Hector Neris, all these guys had career years last year to be able to have a 2.80 ERA. I don't think that they're as bad as they've shown thus far, as they entered into Saturday in the bottom half of the league in terms of bullpen ERA. For the Astros, you do have some main mashers in the middle of this lineup that are picking up the slack, while Jose Altuve is away, as Jordan Alvarez, along with Kyle Tucker, both have been incredible. They both entered into yesterday, hitting north of a 285, and both of these guys have been able to give you 4+ home runs. Mauricio Dubon has been a nice find, hitting well above a 300, but bottom of the fold for the team has been rough. Alex Bregman, he's got one of his patented slow Alex Bregman starts, but you've got Jake Myers, really the entirety of the catcher spot, that does need to do a little bit more for you. And for the Texas Rangers, they're currently without Corey Seager, guy that does a good job of being able to move the line, supply some power. Marcus Semien, rough start to the season for him, entered into yesterday hitting at 236 with just 1 home run. Adolis Garcia hitting below a 225, not a lot of power there. It's been really a lot of the younger guys like Jonah Heim along with Josh Young who have been able to do a good job getting on base for the Texas Rangers, providing a little bit of power. And for the Texas Rangers, they did enter into Saturday in the top 6 in terms of bullpen ERA. They added Dane Dunning to the bullpen. He's been a nice find there. I like the way that Cole Ragans has come out of the bullpen. And then last season, Jonathan Hernandez, Jose Leclerc, Brock Burke, they were all able to give you a sub-3 bullpen ERA as well. So I do think that this is going to be a game where runs are going to be a little bit more at a premium. I think we've went a little bit too low with this total. It opened up at 8. Would have been willing to take an 8 under. Now that we're at 7.5, though, I'm going to be taking a look at the over, as I did set my total at 7.8. I do think that the Astros are going to be able to get to Andrew Heaney, which is why I'm willing to trust in the Astros on the run line in this spot, especially with the Texas Rangers dealing with some injuries with their lineup. So I'm going to be taking a look at that Astros run line to go along with this total over on 7.5, 921, 922 on the betting board. The San Francisco Giants at the road face off against the Detroit Tigers. Matthew Boyd is going to be going for the Tigers, and Logan Webb is on the bump for San Francisco, and the Giants between minus 140 to minus 150 favorites, and between plus 125 to plus 135 is your number on Detroit. 8.5 is the total. Under is between minus 110 to minus 120. The over is any between even a minus 110. And with the Tigers, I did set them at a plus 164. If you're taking a look at the run line of the San Francisco Giants, find that at a plus 115. I was willing to take pretty much even money or better. I'm going to be willing to ride with the run line. The Giants bullpen has not been the same ever since Buster Posey left. It really took a fall off last season, and thus far this season, they're in the bottom 5 in terms of bullpen ERA, but I do think that Logan Webb is going to help mitigate some of that bullpen, shall we say, volatility, as thus far this season, it's been rough for him. He's given up 4 runs in each out of his first 3 starts. Now, his last start against the Dodgers, only one of those runs was earned. He was badly hurt by his defense. I do think that things are going to be a little bit more in line for him in this one. He has never been some sort of amazing swing and miss guys thus far this season. That has been actually the exact opposite. 22 punch-outs in 17 innings. He's come into his form a little bit more there. And last year, he was very good on the road. As a matter of fact, he had a 2.91 home ERA compared to a 2.89 road ERA, which is impressive considering how pitcher-friendly San Francisco is. He did so while giving up about 0.9 home runs per 9 innings. Recognize that the Detroit Tigers late in the game yesterday were able to put up some runs, but this is still one of the most deplorable lineups you're going to find in all of Major League Baseball. These guys currently have a combined 10 home runs in 14 games. Riley Green has done a solid job of being able to find a way on base since he got called up to the big leagues last season, hitting right in the pocket of about a 250, but Miguel Cabrera is about 500 years old. He, Nick Baton, Javi Baez, Gary Carpenter, Spencer Torkelson, you're able to go down the list. They just aren't able to supply us. Everyone other than Cabrera is hitting below a 220, and Cabrera's hitting a 233, and Cabrera just not a threat to be able to go yard at this point in his career, and you've got nobody on this Tigers team that has more than 2 home runs. Meanwhile, for the San Francisco Giants, they do a very good job of having the whole be greater than the sum of its parts. Right now, you do have J.D. Davis, who's been able to give you 4 home runs, but it's all about having a lot of guys that currently have between 2 and 3 home runs, like Mikey Yastrzemski, David Villar, Thairo Estrada, Michael Conforto. You're able to go down the list. Don't necessarily have a ton of guys hitting for average. Davis, along with Thairo Estrada, are currently hitting well north of a 325, but past that, just have a lot of guys that they situationally are able to get into one. They're able to give you some pop in. I was talking about the Giants bullpen a little bit earlier. You do have a pair of guys, Camilo Duvall, Scott Alexander, that are relatively trustworthy. They have sub-3 ERAs. And then for the Detroit Tigers, the guys that were so good in this bullpen last year, like a Joe Jimenez, Andrew Chafin, Gregory Soto, they're not out of the fold. You've got Jose Cicerno, who was able to supply a sub-250 ERA last season. Alex Lang was okay in the bullpen, but having to rely upon Trey Wingenter and company, that's a little bit of a roll of the dice. And for Matthew Boyd, he did not give a single start during the 2022 season, hardly pitch at all with the Seattle Mariners thus far this season. He has not been great, he has not been terrible, and he is very prone to knocking himself out of games early as well. As a command, it's all over the place. He's always been a good pitcher at being able to get swings and misses, but ever since really the back half of the 2019 season has given up north of 2 home runs per 9 innings as well. He is very prone to get taken yard. I do think that Logan Webb is going to be able to do his part in this start though, and for the Detroit Tigers, this is one of the, shall we say, more crummy lineups in all of baseball. I think that Logan Webb is going to be able to spin his web, have the Tigers just be completely trapped there. So I did set my total at 7.8, looking at the under. I do think that for Webb, he's going to be able to go deep in this game, help mitigate the use of the Giants bullpen. So looking at the run line of the Giants to go along with this total under 923, 924 on the betting board, it is the Cleveland Guardians in third to face off against the Washington Nationals, as it is Patrick Corbin, the old turkey tosser for Washington, and Shane Bieber is trying to make believers out of those back in Cleveland. 8.5 is the total, over and under both at minus 110, with Cleveland finding them anywhere between minus 222 to a minus 230, and between plus 185 and plus 205 is your number on Washington. But the real question is, what is the run line of the Cleveland Guardians? Right now, you're finding that anywhere between a minus 135 to a minus 140, and for Cleveland, I set them minus 234 on the money line, and in terms of this run line, I set it at a minus 145. I am willing to take this run line. It has just been so bad for Patrick Corbin. Thus far this season, he has not been able to find it, and really it's been the last 3 seasons for him. He's started out this year giving up 3 home runs in 14 innings, but what is more impressive than that, because he gives up quite a few home runs, no doubt about it, opponents were hitting north of a 300 off of him last season. Thus far this season, opponents are hitting like a 350 off of him. It's just absolutely ridiculous. As a matter of fact, a 375. He's doing this while supplying 4 walks per 9 innings. He's been a little bit better when he's been at home, but still has north of a 5 ERA over the last 2 seasons when he is at home. And now he has to go up against someone in Shane Bieber that the swing and miss stuff is not quite what it was a few seasons ago. When he was winning that Cy Young Award, it was north of 12 punch-outs per 9 innings. Thus far this season, just 14 strikeouts over the course of 19 innings, but even though he hasn't had that quadruple A plus stuff, he knows how to use it, as he's given up just 5 runs in his 3 starts thus far this season. That includes a start against the New York Yankees, as he's been able to do a nice job of being able to limit the walks, and he's backed up by a Cleveland Guardians bullpen that, since the All-Star break of 2022, is number 1 in the league in terms of bullpen ERA. You did have to dive into it quite a bit, yesterday with the way that Zach Plesac started out the game, but you've got Eli Morgan, Emmanuel Clase, Aniel de los Santos, Trevor Steven, Nick Sandlin, all these guys, they're able to supply a sub-3.3 ERA. And since the All-Star break of 2022, you got a Washington Nationals bullpen that they rank 9th in the league in terms of bullpen ERA. So you've been able to get some good innings out of guys like Hunter Harvey, Erasmo Ramirez, and Mason Thompson, though both bullpens have been used quite a bit in this series. But just with the Washington Nationals, you don't have a lot of offense with this team. They entered into yesterday with, I believe, a combined 6 home runs, with Jeimer Candelario being the only guy that has given you multiple home runs. And taking a look at the lineup for yesterday, you had 2 guys hitting above a 250 that saw an at-bat in Lane Thomas and Victor Robles at the bottom of the fold. They've been able to move line, but just haven't been able to get a lot out of anyone like a Luis Garcia, Alex Call. These guys have been horrible. And for the Cleveland Guardians last year, you had a lot of guys that did get on base for you, like Andres Jimenez, Will Brennan, Jose Ramirez, Ahmed Rosario, Stephen Kwan, all at least at 270. They've been striking out a little bit more this season. It's been a bit better in this series, but you just don't have any home run power with them, as the Guardians, they're currently dead last in the American League in terms of home run power. But that's why you've got the gift that you do in Patrick Corbin. I do think that Corbin is going to be able to keep the ball in the air, but I think that it's going to be death by a million cuts against them. And I do think that Shane Bieber going to be able to completely light up this Washington Nationals team that's been really one of the worst offenses in all of baseball. So despite the fact that we do have a rather big minus 135 to minus 140 run line, I'm going to be willing to lay it, not willing to go really anything past a minus 140 in this ordeal, as I set my run line at a minus 144, but I'm going to be willing to go in on the run line in this spot. When it comes to total, I did set it at 8.2 just because I don't think the Washington Nationals can hold up their end of the bargain. I think that the bullpen can rescue this under. So looking at the under and looking at the Guardians run line, 925, 926 on the betting board, it is the Atlanta Braves hitting the road face-off against the Kansas City Royals. As Zach Greinke is going to be going for the Royals, and Kyle Wright looks to be Mr. Wright for the Atlanta Braves. And the Braves, they are anywhere between minus 152 and minus 165 favorites, anywhere between plus 135 and plus 143 is your number on the Royals, with a total of 8.5 to 9 on the 9. Unders minus 120, the overs even on the 8.5, overs minus 120, and the unders even. And with the Braves, set the minus 156 on the money line. If you are taking a look at this run line, you're getting it anywhere between even money and plus 110, and I would rather lay the minus 155 right now. And if we do get a point where the Kansas City Royals would be more around a minus 110 to a minus 112 on their run line, getting a run and a half, that's something I could possibly entertain as well. I'm personally in a little bit of wait-and-see mode right now since I set the Braves money line at a minus 156, but at current numbers, we'll be willing to lay between minus 152 to a minus 155 that I'm seeing right now with Kyle Wright. I just do have trepidation with him because his velocity is way down to start out the year. His minor league rehab starts to not go well, and then he gives up 4 runs in 3 innings against the Cincinnati Reds. Only reason why I've got the Atlanta Braves still as a pretty significant favorite is, for one, the Braves, they had the number 4 bullpen in the big leagues last season in terms of ERA. You still have a lot of those good pieces like AJ Minter, Jesse Chavez, Lucas Luque, even though they're up there in years, and I could see them wearing down towards the back half of the season. It's still April. These guys are still relatively fresh and should be able to hold down the fort. Heck, even Michael Tonkin, I believe that he came in long relief to bail out Kyle Wright in his last start. He's someone that is of significance. And for the Atlanta Braves, this team led the National League in terms of home runs last season, and you've still got a lot of firepower in the lineup. Each have your top 4 hitters in Matt Olson, Sean Murphy, Austin Riley, and Ronald Acuna Jr. from yesterday. In terms of the lineup, they're only above 300 now. It is a very top-heavy lineup, as Kevin Pillar, along with someone like an Ozzie Albies, Marcell Ozuna, these guys do need to pick it up, but you do have an Atlanta Braves team that 1 through 5/6 is about as fearsome as you're going to get in all baseball, and they're going up against Kansas City Royals team that it's right now really deplorable, as Nathan Eaton, Nicky Lopez, Michael Massey, Hunter Dozier, MJ Melendez, Kyle Isbell, they're all hitting at 215 or lower. The Kansas City Royals are at the very minimum a bottom 3 lineup in the big leagues. You still have Salvador Perez, who had that 48 home run season 2 seasons ago. It just looks like he's starting to get a little bit washed and old at this point. Ed Olivares has been able to move the line along with Bobby Witt Jr., but that's about it for the Royals, and this is not a good Royals bullpen. They pick up Aroldis Chapman, a little bit of an upgrade from what they had last season. Scott Barlow is able to help you out as well, and Jose Cuas isn't terrible, but you are still expecting a lot more out of these guys. I'm very curious to see what Josh Staumont does after last year. He was just not good, to say the least, so this is a little bit of a horse apiece situation, and you've got a guy in Zach Greinke that I just think that he's due in for massive regression at home. You take a look at Zach Greinke and his home and road splits, and it's very stark. He has pitched since the beginning of the 2022 season at home, a grand total of, I believe now, 77 and a third innings, allowing 1 home run. I mean, that's just not sustainable for Bob Gibson, let alone Zach Greinke. And Zach Greinke gives up a lot of contact. Ever since returning to the Kansas City Royals, his strikeouts per 9 rate has been hovering somewhere in the neighborhood of about 5.5 or so. He does a good job not allowing a lot of walks, but he's going to give up a lot of contact to an Atlanta Braves team that is able to barrel him up. So this is a spot where I did set the Atlanta Braves minus 156 on the money line. Don't want to trust in the run line with Kyle Wright, but at current numbers, I'd be looking at the money line, and I am taking a look at this 8.5 over just because I do trust in the strength of this Atlanta Braves lineup. 927, 928 on the betting board. It is the Oakland A's. They play us the New York Mets, as JP Sears is going to be going for the A's, and you might notice a little bit of switcheroony here. It was looking like Max Scherzer was going to be going, but Jose Butto is getting the start for the Mets, and DraftKings has an updated number with the Mets with Butto going. It is minus 190 on their money line, plus 160 on the Oakland A's. 8.5 is the total. The over and the under are both at minus 110. And with regards to the run line, currently I'm seeing the Mets at a minus 130 on the run line, and I'm going to be actually looking at the run line of the Oakland A's, getting a run and a half at plus 110. I would need at least a plus 170 to dive in on the Oakland A's money line. The Oakland A's have just been horrible to begin the year, to say the least. I don't necessarily want to bank on them winning this game outright just because they do have a bottom 5 bullpen in terms of ERA, and I do think that they're going to be able to pick it up. But I will say this, not having Domingo Acevedo in that bullpen, I do think is currently hurting the Oakland A's. You do have a few guys like a Sam Maul that have been able to do a solid job. Danny Jimenez, Zach Jackson, these guys had a sub 3.5 ERA last season in the bullpen. AJ Puck being lost is a little bit rough, but out of all the starters for the Oakland A's, JP Sears is probably your most trustworthy. Hasn't been a great start to the year from. Gave up 3 home runs in his first 9 2/3 innings across 2 starts this season. But you take a look back at what he was able to do a season ago. He gave up about 1.1 home runs per 9 innings. His walks per 9 rate hovering in the neighborhood about 2.7 to 2.8. Not much of a swing and miss guy, but someone that's able to keep things out in front of him, playing in a very pitcher-friendly ballpark in Oakland, though it does play much less pitcher-friendly during the daytime rather than the nighttime, and it is going to be a daytime game. But we've also seen the Oakland A's be able to rise up a little bit more with their lineup. Now, much of that was just in that 3 games that they had against the Baltimore Orioles, back 3 games of that series. They had 6+ runs in every one of them. No doubt you knew that there was going to be some regression there, but Brent Rooker has been able to give you 4 home runs. He was hitting north of a 300 going into yesterday. You've got a young outfielder in Estudio Ruiz who's been hitting north of a 300 as well, so you've got a few signs of life, and then you do have your guys like your Tony Campbell, Mendes Diaz and company that are just complete disasters currently up at the plate. But for the New York Mets, it's been a little bit of tough sledding for this lineup, as well as you've had Pete Alonso be incredible for this team. Out of their first 14 home runs of the season, he has slugged out 7 of them. Brendan Nimmo, Starling Marte, they're starting to get it together at the plate. They're hitting north of a 275, but Mark Canha, Jeff McNeil, Daniel Vogelbach, Eduardo Escobar, all these guys are hitting below a 215 right now. The young catcher they're banking on, and Francisco Alvarez, he's going to be good soon. He's had a little bit of a rough go of it as well. And for the Mets, they do have the better bullpen in this ordeal to be able to back up Butto, that if you're taking a look at him, he got 1 start last season. He got destroyed in that 1 start, giving up 7 runs in 4 innings. I think that it's very hard to put too much stock into that one, but you take a look at what he did in the minor league level last season. This was between Binghamton along with Syracuse. He had about a 3.56 ERA. His strikeouts per 9 rate was right around 9.5, but he does get a little bit loose, right around 3.1, 3.2 walks per 9 innings. He's someone that I think is a nice developmental prospect, but I don't think that he's necessarily a great pitcher. He's an okay pitcher for AAA, and, well, frankly, he's facing off against about a AAA or so lineup, so I don't think that he's going to be faring too terribly. I think that the Mets still have a good chance to be able to win this game because they do have Adam Ottavino in the bullpen. They do still have David Robertson is going to be the best closer out there. Drew Smith is able to give you some good innings, but I don't want to be laying this sort of a number on a guy like Butto, so being able to get plus 110 on getting a run and a half with the Oakland A's is where I'm looking currently in this spot. Did set my total at an 8.1 because it is a very pitcher-friendly ballpark, and it is an Oakland A's team that has a tough time of being able to just get on base in general, so it's an ordeal where I'm going to be taking a look at this total under, and I'm going to be taking a look at getting a run and a half with the Oakland A's. 929, 930 on the betting board. It is the Colorado Rockies. They hit the road to face off against the Seattle Mariners to wrap things up as Luis Castillo goes for Seattle. good old to be determined is on the bump for the Colorado Rockies. Right now, DraftKings has a preliminary number of minus 260 on Seattle, plus 220 with the Rockies with a total of 7 overs, minus 120, and the under is even. And if you're looking at that Seattle run line, seeing that at a minus 120, I'm assuming Noah Davis is going to be the starter for the Rockies. And if we get this number with Noah Davis being the starter, I would be willing to lay that Mariners run line, set them minus 247 on the money line, and set them minus 130 on the run line. Luis Castillo, ever since he has gotten to Seattle, he has been magnificent, being able to drop his walks per 9 rate to about 2.5 with being with the Seattle Mariners thus far this season. He has been darn near unhittable. 17 2/3 innings, giving up 2 earned runs, 17 strikeouts to just 4 walks. He has been amazing. And if you do get our good friend Noah Davis, it's a nice story. Him being able to make it up to the major league level, this is someone that just does not deserve a start whatsoever. And if it's not Noah Davis, it's someone else in the terrible minor league system of the Colorado Rockies that also doesn't deserve a start. I'm thinking it's going to be Noah Davis because it sounded like from the grapevine, those that cover the team, he was in line for it, but he had a 5.41 ERA last season. Now, he's in a little bit of a juice ball league, but on top of that, juice ball league or not, 4 walks per 9 innings at the minor league level. That's just not going to cut it, and he's backed up by a bullpen that was dead last in the big leagues last year in terms of ERA. Jake Bird is not a guy that you want to be relying upon. I do like the pickup of Brad Hand. He's been able to be consistent throughout his career. I actually liked Pierce Johnson coming in. He completely lit that game on fire against the St. Louis Cardinals, and has not been seen since then, though. And then you got guys like a Ty Block that are probably going to be giving you some innings. That's not necessarily a place where you want to be in for the Seattle Mariners. They're currently dealing with the injury to Andres Munoz in this bullpen, but you still have a pair of guys in Paul Sewell, Penn Murphy. They provided sub-3 ERA last season. Matt Brash has been a little bit out of sorts, but facing off against the Colorado Rockies team that they've got such demonstrative home and road splits, they should be able to do a nice job for the Rockies. Last year, they led the big leagues in terms of runs per game at home. They were the only team in the big leagues that scored fewer than 3.4 runs per game on the road last season. That was 2.99. That shows you just how much worse they were than the rest of the league when they were on the road. CJ Cron has been able to supply you with 4 home runs this season, but hitting just a 230, you're noticing darn near everyone for the Colorado Rockies. It's about 50 points worse when they're on the road rather than when they are at home. And for the Seattle Mariners, they were 3rd worst in the big leagues in terms of batting average last season, and you need to get a little bit more out of some of your pickups. Tommy La Stella, Colton Wong, Teoscar Hernandez, they have yet to really live up to their money, though. Hernandez, it feels like he's starting to pick things up. Last 2 seasons with the Blue Jays had 57 home runs, hitting at 279 for them. But Ty France, this guy's been incredible. Just 1 home run entering into yesterday, but hitting at 356. And Eugenio Suarez, 1 home run in his first 57 at-bats of the season. You know he's going to be able to pick it up. He's hitting nearly at 300, so even though the power numbers are down, he's moving the line. And Jarred Kelenic had that like 480 some odd foot shot in Wrigley a few days ago. He has been absolutely tremendous. He's finally living up to his billing. So if we do get our good friend Noah Davis or someone of that like for the Colorado Rockies, this is not going to change too much if instead they trot out there some other schlub from their AAA affiliate. It's a spot where I'd be willing to lay right around about a minus 130 on this Mariners run line, and somebody told us 7.4 just because I think Seattle's going to be able to do some nice damage on this Colorado Rockies team. So take a look at the 7 over and the run line of Seattle, and that will wrap things up for the Sunday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. A big thanks to Matt Williams over there at the GameDay MLB for joining me in the last segment. If you do like what you're hearing from this fine podcast, the Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of 2 ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter timeline at JN_41. Keep in mind, letters EM, they mean does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. Other ways, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it is very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire on whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review, coming at you guys every single day throughout the baseball season, and that means I'm coming at you once again tomorrow. Thank you so much for tuning in.